Hamza Ahmed has been facing a lot of criticism lately, eventually leading him to leave this post in the community tab. He refers to the people criticizing him as haters and claims he has learned nothing from these comments. If there's any chance Hamza is watching this video, I want to ask you directly, do you really think you'll ever be open to learning if you see every single piece of feedback as being from a hater? He boils down the criticism to a few simple phrases which do not capture what people are saying at all. You've changed, you and your ex split up, and views are down. Because of this dumbing down, he then completely misses the point with all of his explanations. With that being said, Hamza has a reputation for being brutally honest with his audience, with the intention of getting them to change for the better. So maybe it's time he experienced this himself. This guy has been contradicting himself consistently. He's consistently inconsistent. In February last year, Hamza decided that he had fulfilled his purpose. He decided that the next level to his masculinity would be to become a fighter, and that YouTube was no longer fulfilling that masculine drive. He needed something intrinsically deeper. This was the next step. Hamza was evolving. He even promised a U-turn from the soul-sucking animated videos to more purposeful uploads.
You will no longer see these daily uploads at the same time every single day. You won't see that. You won't see videos with animations and edits and artistic thumbnails or anything like that. You will just see plain, basic, occasional, sporadic videos. Infrequent videos.
And 4 months later, he uploads Why I Never Became a Fighter. That's weird. How can someone talk about something with such vehement passion and then go back on it? Well, at least he did give it a whole 4 months.
At the end of the day, the first day of being in this fight camp, I go and sit down and journal in my room. And I just ask myself a question, is this authentic?
So you're telling me he quit this newfound metamorphosis after 1 day? 1 day. All those principles he talked about in the video were challenged within a day. So how strong were these principles in the first place?
The mediocre man would get the vision that I did and he'd start training a few hours a week. The superior man would go and live in a fight camp. The superior man, the man who's really like on this, would literally go and live amongst the fighters and the warriors and live amongst them, eat amongst them, and be revolving around this lifestyle as much as possible.
Not only did he start frequently uploading, a few months later he defaulted back to his highly edited, dopamine-inducing videos. 2 months later, another upload, Fatherhood Chapter. Hamza was going to be a father. He was going to start a family in Scotland with his girlfriend, away from the humdrum city lifestyle, partying, meaningless friends and wasted relationships. Hamza was evolving again. He stressed how much better this way of living was, and of course, that this was the only optimal way of living. This really felt wholesome and a breath of fresh air from the degeneracy pushed down our throats from Red Pill YouTube. And just a couple of weeks ago, he announced his breakup.
How adventurous was that compared to the moments when we're just kind of living together and I'm just this fucking goofy guy who's making high-pitched like noises and you know, like laughing next to her the same way that I would with my male friends.
How do you expect to stay mysterious to your wife? And this type of toxic BS advice is exactly what Hamza deterred us from when he was making documentaries on how to love a woman.
But when it comes to the dating tactics which say, okay, act like this, don't talk so much, that's when it can get a little bit tricky. Like we said today, it makes you act like the stereotypical Chad who's cold and avoidance. And when you do that and it's not the authentic version of you, which if you've watched this much of the video, that's not who you are.
Essentially, the reason for the breakup is because he wants to go back to the city lifestyle and his girlfriend wants to live the life he originally died on the hill of just a few months ago. This whole situation is a blatant contradiction to what he said in the past. Multiple hours worth of content on relationships and finding the right girl on his channel, all for him to break up with his girlfriend for the very same reason.
You will not find this kind of woman who will fit with this lifestyle in a big major city like London, Dubai, Miami.
In the end, he just went back to a life he visualized. People who have been members of Hamza's paid product, the Adonis School, have said that no one has the ability to think and that there is too much adoration given to Hamza. Additionally, people have claimed to be banned for pointing out any criticisms within Adonis School, and that Hamza only wants people to think and do whatever he teaches.
Essentially, he's saying to these young guys, you aren't successful like me. You can't trust yourself because you fap, because you fapped 3 times one day. So listen to me because I know what's best for you.
And sure, he calls himself a cult leader, so maybe this type of stuff is expected. But if you're a cult leader, at least lead your cult in a direction. Don't just switch up every few months. It begs a question on whether he really believes in his ideology when he doesn't even trust the people he's teaching self-improvement to help him self-improve. Him thinking he has a monopoly on self-improvement is the very antithesis of self-improvement. The only people that have evolved are his audience, since we are finally seeing the true Hamza. It's like he finds a new concept to mentally masturbate about, which results in manic uploads on a certain way to live life. He has even talked about how his audience does this.
The easy way to explain the Dunning-Kruger effect is that the moment you learn something new, for a lot of people who are quite egotistical, and I'm one of them, my ego's fucking huge, it's like your brain will convince you that you know a lot about it straight away because you've just learned like one or two facts. And so it's kind of like, as soon as you learn a little bit, like you get a little bit competent in something, you feel like you're fucking sick at it, and you're like, you're at the mount of like the confidence, and you know everything, you start talking about it and everything, you know better than all your friends about self-improvement.
But as we can see, Hamza is guilty of this too, to a large magnitude. And from his own words, this behaviour stems from his ego. He has too much of an ego, which is why he keeps flip-flopping and why he thinks his self-improvement is the best.
And the men of this country in general, unless they follow me, are fucking weak. The only strong men in this entire fucking country, in the entire West, are just the ones who are part of my cult, who have followed my advice and become strong from that. Every fucking other guy here is basically just a fucking pussy. They're all just weak as fuck.
And he himself is unable to live up to it. This is the product of being someone you're not. He forced himself to fit his idealized version of self-improvement, where he's a fighter and he settles down with a family. But that's not him in the first place. He just put on a facade that he was these things, but he wasn't, which is why it's all come unraveling now. Because of his ego, he also has a lack of responsibility towards his audience. He claims to be very upfront about his failures, but it's almost always prompted by people being confused and urging him to speak about a situation. He thinks he can prescribe a life to people, look down on those who don't follow him, but now he lives his life to his own discretion. He can't afford that luxury anymore when his infallibility is always being undermined. So to answer your question, Hamza, change and the breakup isn't the problem, but your constant fluctuation of belief shows that the ideology you're pushing isn't entirely consistent, and this is the massive problem.